I recently won a significant amount of money. I won't say exactly how much, but it's in the millions. It makes me feel funny even typing it. It's enough to change the life of myself and my family. My ex-wife is the mother of my 2 kids. She is an amazing woman and good to the bone. We divorced 6 years ago because I had an affair with my current partner. I was in a low place in my life and I messed up. She was in incredible pain, but like a saint, she allowed me to still see our kids who mean the world to me. Allowed our divorce to be as pain-free as possible despite the fact that I know she was hurting. She still is close with my parents. She is respectful to me, although she refuses to talk to my girlfriend. She was actually the first person I phoned after my mom and pops after I found out I won the lottery. She was pleased for me and joked that I could take the kids on a world-round trip, and that was that. Nothing else. As soon as I won, I knew I wanted to give her a significant amount. I still love her. She's the mother of my babies, and I feel like this is some small, tiny way I can show her that I'm not a complete F-up. She deserves to know that I care despite my mistakes. She also works a shitty job in the public library, which pays her peanuts. She would actually be able to pursue her hobbies this way, give our kids a better life. Between us, I haven't discussed this with my ex yet, but I have with my parents who strongly agree, and my lawyer who was very surprised but on board. Long story short, when I told my girlfriend, she was livid, screaming that I'm disrespecting her, accusing me of still being in love with my ex-wife. For the record, I'm not in love with her. We've both grown apart, but of course I still love her for being an excellent co-parenting partner and mother to my kids. My girlfriend is threatening to break up with me, and to be honest, I'm feeling incredibly relieved over the threats. I don't plan on changing my plans. Am I wrong for going against my girlfriend's wishes? I don't have the best relationship with my husband's mom. Since day one, she tried to make remarks and compare me to her. She then tried to get on my good side and started overly praising everything I do and sometimes even copying me. Like this one time when she literally dyed her hair purple just like mine, and when everyone pointed out how ridiculous she looked, she actually blamed me and accused me of trying to make a joke out of her. So anyways, my husband and I took 2 weeks off work to go visit some places out of the country. Tourism, in other words. Thing is, I was the one who saved up for and arranged for the trip. My husband was responsible for booking the tickets. My husband's mom wanted to come along and threw temper tantrums when I said no. She called, texted, sent people to talk to me into letting her come, even threatened to call the police and make some complaint up to get us to stay if she can't come. My husband said we should just take her, but I told him he was wrong to tell her about the trip in the first place. He gave me an ultimatum, said he wouldn't go if she can't come, and I told him I'd gladly call his bluff, which made him take his words back and say, "Fine, I will tell her to stop it because we won't take her." Things got quieter, suspiciously quieter. The day of the trip came, and we got to the airport at 2 p.m. My husband was walking ahead of me and was looking left and right like he was looking for someone. I asked him, but he didn't respond. He led me to the waiting area, and the first thing I saw was his mom standing there with her luggage. I froze in my spot. I felt a cold wave washing over me, and I was fuming inside. She and my husband were hugging. That's when I quietly turned around and started walking towards the exit. My husband followed me while shouting at me to stop. He tried to stop me, but I told him off in the harshest way possible. He tried to say I was overreacting and that his mom was there anyway, and I should let it go and not mess the trip up for us. I told him he and his mom could still go, and that I was going home. I went home and sobbed into my dog's fur for several minutes. Turned out he booked her a ticket without me knowing. An hour later, he came home yelling and raging about how pathetic and spiteful I was to walk out and go home and ruin the trip last minute. I told him he caused this to happen. He said that I was being so hard on his mom, it's ridiculous. I refused to fight anymore, but he kept on berating me, then called my family to tell them that the trip was canceled and that it was because of me. My family said that I shouldn't have ruined it for myself and should have sucked it up and done my best to enjoy it. Did I really overreact? Or was I in the right? Me and 2 other guys share an apartment together and we split all the bills. The only thing we don't split costs on is groceries. Everyone's in charge of buying their own food and we don't touch whatever doesn't belong to us in the fridge. We put our names on everything so no one gets mixed up. This issue has been going on for almost a year and I'm sick of it. One of my roommates, Rob, keeps stealing my food. I get home from work and containers with my leftovers are sometimes missing or my stuff finishes too quickly. My gallon of milk, for example. I buy almond milk because I like the taste. but it seems to finish after a week, even though I've only drank once or twice. I confronted my roommate Rob about this lots of times, and that's caused a lot of arguments. He outright denies it and tells me I'm crazy, even though it's so obvious. My other roommate George and I carpool together because we both work the same early morning shifts around the same area, so I know it's not him. It's always after we get back home and Rob's already left for work that I notice my food's gone. My roommates also had a similar problem, but not as often as I do. I'm guessing because Rob doesn't like what he buys. The funny thing is, Rob buys a lot for himself and is even more stingy about his food. He will literally point out what's his when he comes back from grocery shopping and tell us not to touch it. Last week, my milk was nearly empty again and I got fed up. I went to the liquor store and bought regular dairy milk. I drank what was left of my almond milk and refilled the gallon with the one I bought. This was to catch Rob stealing since he's lactose intolerant. The next day, Saturday, we get back from work and Rob is pissed. He yelled at me that he was stuck in the bathroom for 40 minutes with diarrhea because of my milk. He was using it to make a shake. I only responded with, "So then you're the one who's been stealing." He freaking exploded. Yeah, he admitted he was sometimes drinking my milk and eating my food, but he was more mad that I switched milks than the fact that he was caught. I told him I wouldn't have done that if he'd just stopped taking my stuff from the fridge, or at least told the truth instead of trying to make it seem like I was making it up. My roommate backed me up and thought it was kind of funny he got payback for stealing from us. It's a little tense, and my roommate told me Rob is trying to convince him to agree to kick me out. Little does he know we're both looking to move somewhere else together because we are sick of his shit. I told some buddies what happened, and a few think I was a jerk for that. I feel like I'm not in the wrong here. He was taking my food and not even owning up to it, and I wanted to prove it. Does that make me a jerk? My sister and I lost our dad a year ago. He was my only parent. Mom was never in mine or my sister's life. Dad left inheritance money for me and my sister, and she used her inheritance to get new cars and renovate her house. I live with my aunt right now because my brother-in-law didn't let me stay with my sister. I'm planning on using my inheritance money to pay for college tuition. I've always wanted to be a doctor but haven't decided which branch yet. My sister and I haven't been close. It started after she got married to her chronically ill husband, who was allowed to make backhanded comments about Dad and mock his illness and make a scene at his funeral. Only because he's ill and shouldn't be held accountable for his behavior. I've distanced myself, but my sister kept visiting a lot lately, venting about my brother-in-law's condition. He's been in and out of the hospital for heart problems and in need of surgery. She brought up my inheritance money several times, but I ended up cutting the conversation. She then straight up asked if I could help pay for her husband's surgery, and she'd pay back in less than a year. I felt uneasy because if I give her money from my inheritance, which is a large amount, then there's no guarantee she'll pay back before it's time to apply for college. I'm taking a year gap, but I know my sister can't pay back that much, and I felt I was risking my future. I refused to help, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless, cruel, with no empathy. She said that her husband's health should be a priority, and I needed to help, because education is nothing compared to someone's health, and asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. My aunt suggested others pay, but most of them cut my sister and her husband off. I argued that her husband's poor health isn't my fault after she kept blaming and guilt-tripping me. She kept crying, and although my aunt decided to stay out of it, she said that I should be prepared for permanent damage in my relationship with my sister if I don't help her now. She's been sending texts and pictures of her family telling me this is what I was saying no to, a happy, healthy family with a healthy husband and father. I cried and felt like I was being selfish and not a good aunt and sister. I asked my friend and he said let them sell the cars and all the luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery, and warned me if I give them money, I'll never get it back, and may not be able to go to medical school. Am I being cruel for refusing to pay for my sister's husband's surgery with my inheritance college money? I've always supported my girlfriend. We have been together for 4 years now and lived together for 1 year. She has always had anxiety as well as depression, where some months are worse than others. I have supported her through all of this and understand it is very hard for her. In January, she lost her job due to the current world circumstances. By March, she hit a low point with not eating as much, crying, irritability, typical traits of depression. I have comforted her as much as possible and taken care of everything. However, at the beginning of June, I was allowed back to work, and since the house has fallen to shambles, I am too tired by the time I come home to do anything, even cook. Most nights we order takeout, and on the rare occasion she makes food. The floors aren't being washed, laundry is a mountain, and dishes are everywhere. I try to keep on top of it, but with work it is almost impossible. She is home all day. She lies in bed till late afternoon, watches Netflix, eats bowls of cereal, and naps. That's about it. I've tried to gently coax her to do more, and she says she will get to it but never does. I finally snapped, told her I was sick of her doing nothing all day and leaving the housework to me. That if she is here and I am working, she needs to be pulling her weight. She got upset and said that she wants to, but she can never find the motivation, that she is tired all the time. I said I understood she was depressed, but it isn't an excuse to do nothing and be lazy. No one likes housework, but I won't take any more excuses about it. She needs to start doing it or leave. Next day I come home to a clean house and a note from her saying she was sorry and is going to stay with her mother. Her mom helped her clean before they left. I tried calling, but she wouldn't pick up. When I rang the house, her mother answered and had a lot to say. She was furious, telling me about how she is struggling and I am making her worse, that I should be supporting her and not ignoring that she is in a bad place and so on. I was told my girlfriend had been crying all day in her bedroom, and I feel awful. I never wanted to hurt her, I just snapped. I tried to get her mother to give my girlfriend the phone, but she wouldn't speak to me. It feels like a lose-lose situation. On one hand, I know depression results in lack of motivation and cleanliness, and on the other hand, I can't stand to see our home in such chaos. I've never had depression, so I can't say for sure how bad it truly is. That's why I find it more difficult to empathize. Am I an a-hole for telling her depression isn't an excuse? I come from a close-knit family. I have 2 younger siblings, and my sister recently got engaged to my future brother-in-law after dating him for around a year. We all know him well, and I have always got along with him. He comes from a rough background, but he has always been very polite and charming. He doesn't talk about his own family or about his upbringing. My sister said it's a painful topic for him, so no one ever pushed. There was recently a family event which my future brother-in-law attended. He was quiet during the day. He is normally high energy and sociable. He then disappeared for a while. When I went outside for some fresh air, I bumped into him. He was emotional and said it was a hard day for him due to negative associations. He ended up offloading some quite shocking things from his past, including that he has a history of very serious drug use and that he has done sex work and porn with men and women. I felt for him at the time because he was so upset, literally crying on my shoulder. But afterwards, I felt more and more uncomfortable. I still feel bad for him since he clearly regrets it, but it's very shocking to find out he has that kind of history, and it does make me feel differently about him. Obviously, I told my husband what my future brother-in-law told me because I didn't feel comfortable keeping it to myself. I also told my sister because I didn't know how honest he had been with her, and it could impact on her decision to marry him. She was angry and said she was fully aware, and it doesn't make her think less of him. I know others might disagree, but I decided if my sister and my future brother-in-law weren't going to bring it up, then it was my responsibility to make sure my family had the information they needed to make an informed choice about what kind of relationship they have with him. My parents agreed that it was the right thing to do and were grateful. My brother said he could see my point, but didn't think it was my responsibility to share that information. My brother's wife thought I was out of line. When my sister found out I told our family about my future brother-in-law's sketchy past, she was very angry. She is now refusing to speak to me altogether because apparently this has affected my future brother-in-law quite badly. They are no longer engaged because he thinks he's not good enough for her, and no one in my family has seen him since all of this happened. Obviously, that wasn't my intention, and no one said he isn't good enough. I think it's naive to pretend that you see someone exactly the same way after finding out they're an addict. Whether you like it or not, there are risks that come with that lifestyle, and relapses are common. I'm concerned that my sister will get hurt, and I don't think it's unreasonable for my family to have access to the same information I do, especially when they're inviting him to their homes, and there are children around. Am I in the wrong for informing my family about my future brother-in-law's background? I had been dating my ex-fiancée Sarah for 4 years. We had been planning to get married in November 2020, but I found out at the start of this month that she cheated on me. She begged me to give her another chance, but I broke it off. The problem was that being cheated on is, in my mind, completely emasculating and humiliating. So I never told anyone that was the reason we broke up. For obvious reasons, Sarah also didn't tell people we broke up because she cheated. So people have blamed me for the breakup, including my mom. They just see that I dumped her out of the blue. I've gone very strictly no contact with Sarah after I discovered she was cheating on me. Sarah has been talking with my mom and has convinced her that if we could talk one more time, we would be able to reconcile. My mom has been applying hardcore pressure on me to talk with Sarah, but I've explained that there's no chance we will ever get back together. So tonight I go over to my mom's place because she's hosting family for Christmas Eve. I'm there for a bit talking with my aunts and uncles and cousins when the doorbell rings and I can see it's Sarah. I ask what the hell is going on and my mom says she invited Sarah so we can work this out in the spirit of the holidays. I'm pissed now because the only way to explain my side of the story is to tell everyone I was cheated on. Complete humiliation in front of my whole family. So as my mom goes to the front door, I go into the bathroom. My mom starts knocking on the door saying that I need to come out and talk to my ex like an adult. I say F it, kick out the window screen and get in my car and go home. My mom called a short while ago saying she's cutting ties with me over my behavior. She's really fixated on me jumping out of a window and that Sarah will always be like a child to her. My sister called me after to ream me out for ruining Christmas. I broke down and told her that Sarah cheated on me, which is why I dumped her and didn't want to see her under any circumstances. She called me a big a-hole who was lying to cover for myself. Am I really in the wrong? I have a sister who, for the sake of story, I'll just call Jane. Jane is married to Bob, and they have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. My niece and nephew are wonderful kids and no trouble at all. They fight as siblings do, but nothing big. I love them. Now, for about 2 years, I have lived with my sister. It was a miserable time that really affected our relationship. She saw me as free labor, money, and babysitting. Even when I managed to get a small part-time job, she demanded I hand over nearly half my pay or get out. It was hell as she took completely advantage of me. I moved out as soon as I could and we have little contact outside of family gatherings. Now after I moved out, she started complaining how she has no help with the kids and never gets a break. I babysit sometimes, but I have made it clear, just because I'm off work, doesn't mean I want an 8-hour day with my niece and nephew. Anyway, she started talking about how she wanted to foster a kid. Not a kid, but a teenager. I pressed her for more info on this. She wants to adopt a teenager so she has a live-in babysitter for her kids. This is her logic. I want a kid around 16 or 17. You know, someone who may have been in the system for a while. They can share a room with your nephew or sleep in the garage. They can help me with housework, chores, cook, and help me with my business. For context, she bakes and sells cookies. Also babysit the kids so me and Bob can go out sometimes or have some alone time. They'll be so grateful for a home and won't complain. I won't have to pay them at all. And then when they turn 18, I can just sign up for another foster kid. A teenager will be so much easier than a little kid. They will be grateful just to have a roof, food, siblings, if they have been separated from their real ones and clothes. I was horrified, told her it was a horrible idea. She didn't listen to me. She went on with it anyway. About a month ago, a social worker showed up at my apartment to ask me some questions about my sister. She had put me down as a character witness or something like that. I immediately told the social worker why my sister really wanted to foster a kid and how she treated me when I lived with her. The lady thanked me. My sister called crying, saying that she wouldn't be considered for any adoptions or fosters. The social worker told her that they felt her home and her weren't a good fit. She asked if I said anything and I told the truth. She went off on me, hung up, and we haven't spoken since. She has sent some angry texts. A couple family members are on her side. They think foster kids are fucking dogs or something and would be so happy just to have a roof and would gladly do all the housework. Am I in the wrong here? I want to preface this by saying that I married my husband a year ago. His mom is snoopy and annoying AF. She can't help it. That is just how she is, as my dear-in-laws say. My husband and I purchased a new house recently. My mother-in-law kept pushing to get an emergency key. She promised that she only use it in an emergency, but given the fact that she had an emergency key to our old apartment and walked in on us being intimate twice, I just couldn't trust her, so I just sent her a fake key after she kept pushing. She had a smug on her face after I hand-delivered it to her. Days passed by, and on Christmas dinner, mother-in-law angrily called me out on the fact I gave her a fake copy of the house key. She shamed me for doing this in front of everyone, but in my defensive, I asked her how she found out, and she said days ago when she came over at 4 while my husband and were out. I reminded her, didn't you promise you wouldn't use it unless there's an emergency? So you tried to get in when there was no emergency, and you broke the promise you made to us. She looked red in the face, and the other family started staring, and some even laughed at her for the face she made. She suddenly got up from her seat and rushed into the kitchen, where she had a huge meltdown so loud the next-door neighbors must have heard. Literally, I've never heard a 60-plus-year-old woman throw a tantrum like that. Needless to say, dinner went awkward and my husband and his sister were giving me looks. My husband went off on me in the car and said I lied and manipulated and humiliated and exposed his mom, and said he wouldn't have let me get away with it had he known. We had an argument, and he is demanding I apologize to his mom for my childish behavior and for ruining Christmas dinner for the whole family. Am I the jerk here? If you're enjoying our content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on new videos, and you'll be helping support our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.